Even though the drug stocks rebounded hard today, the whole group is still down huge ever since the political firestorm over drug pricing ignited 3 weeks ago. I think this monster decline has created some real values, even as I'm not ready to say that the whole group is bottom. Did have terrific action today. Take Alkermes, A-L-K-S, a company that develops drug delivery technologies, as well as its own proprietary medications for diseases related to the CNS, central nervous system, long-acting therapies for schizophrenia, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, not to mention Vivitrol, a once-monthly injection that helps stop recovering alcoholics and opioid addicts from relapse. You got to ask more about that because it's really come on strong. Ever since drug pricing became an issue 3 weeks ago, Alkermes has seen its stock plunge more than 17%. Nothing has changed about the story, except it's gotten better. Just yesterday, the FDA approved Aristada. That's the company's long-acting version of the widely prescribed antipsychotic drug Abilify. These ultra-long-acting antipsychotic drugs are a rapidly growing category because people who are mentally ill often have trouble staying on their meds. They think they're cured. And while there are other extended-release versions of Abilify out there, Alkermes' compound lasts longer, has different dosing options. It's some other reasons why it might be better in the pack. With the stock trading just below $60 here, I think Alkermes could represent real value. Let's take a close look with Richard Pops, Chairman and CEO of Alkermes. Hear more about how his company's doing and where it's headed. Mr. Pops, welcome back to Mad Money.
Good to be here.
Good to see you, Richard. Now, I've got to tell you, yesterday when I saw the approval, and any other day except for this horrendous market, I think the stock would have been up, say, 3 or 4 points because people were concerned maybe the FDA wasn't going to go for it. But we got some real headwinds here, and you understand the headwinds more than anybody. What's going on out there?
Well, I got to tell you, when you develop a drug for 7 years, one day doesn't matter at all. We're so thrilled that this drug is approved now and available for patients. But, you know, there's a lot of talk right now about price people care about. There was some worry yesterday about the Trans-Pacific Partnership and its effect on pharmaceutical prices around the world. And I think fundamentally, if you make important medicines that help patients, you're going to do just fine.
And the trade agreement, that does cut the years of exclusivity.
For biologics.
For biologics.
These are different molecules than we're working on.
People get all scared.
Everybody gets worried about it, and that's okay.
Okay, now let's talk about this drug, because I think some people are confusing and thinking that it's up against another drug that's just like that. But you're really up against the 80% of the population that just does regular dosing for these antibiotics.
That is precisely right. The way we treat schizophrenia in this country is almost a tragedy. We tolerate relapses. Often people are diagnosed in their late teens, early 20s. We tolerate multiple relapses, and often it's because folks aren't taking their medications every day.
Well, you just did a study that showed that early intervention on this could really help. People don't. It's like they went to late 20s when it could have been early teens.
That's precisely. You're right. We just put that data out today. Yeah. And we surveyed doctors, and we found the average time before somebody is diagnosed with schizophrenia from their first symptoms can be 3 years.
3 critical years.
Critical.
You have a line in your conference call, which I thought was really interesting. We think it's just part of the convenience factor. That's what you need this dosing for. In the chaotic world of the community mental health center, if you have something, if you can just pull something out of the fridge and reconstitute it, it's a lot easier. The chaotic world. I mean, people don't usually speak of the world they're in as chaotic.
Well, you know, one of the things, and we've talked about it for years, Jim, both in alcohol and opioid addiction as well as schizophrenia, these are not plush doctors' offices on Park Avenue. This is the real world, and this affects millions of patients. And one of the things we do at Alkermes is try to put ourselves inside the patient's experience living with a chronic disease and make medicines that map onto what they experience.
Well, let me give you the other side. What happens after say you do a 6 weeks dose? 2 weeks go great, but then facial tic, restless legs. What kind of warning do you have for people who maybe 4 or 5 weeks in it start to exhibit some sort of side effect that you hadn't thought about?
Well, these long-acting preparations are best for patients who've been on the oral medication, know that they tolerate it, they found the correct dose, and then you segue them onto the long-acting dose.
All right, good. So,
and then, if you start them on a 4-week dose, there may be a potential to put onto a six-week dose, then an 8-week dose, but you wouldn't start with a long duration.
Okay, that's important. Now, Vivitrol, suddenly I see numbers going up. Is this what we've talked about for a long time, people recognizing how important this drug could be for recidivists, for people who, the alternative to maybe other methods that we think that have worked, AA, but are people recognizing that this is another method and it's getting more credence?
I think we said at one time, you and I, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
We've been right on Vivitrol for a long time.
For a long time, and yet I still don't hear it as part of the conversation.
It's because just now. I just flew here from Washington, D.C., where we're talking more and more to policymakers. There's something like over 100 programs now in criminal justice systems in 30 states now, where slowly, over time, with experience, people are seeing that there are alternatives to incarcerating people who are addicted. Let's keep them in the community. Let's treat them with an antagonist medication like Vivitrol. And in many cases, you can have better outcomes.
Right, but look, we have a Republican debate coming up that I'm going to be a part of. Do you think if I asked these people, they would just be confused or think I was embarrassing him, and yet this is such an important part of what's wrong with the criminal justice system.
I would encourage you to do so, because when you talk to governors in particular, they're well aware of the opioid epidemic.
They are.
And absolutely. It affects the ambiance in the community. It affects their whole healthcare spend. It affects their criminal justice system. So I would absolutely encourage it. And I think more and more people are talking about this.
All right, I will, because your medicines uniquely try to solve situations and make people better, and also are a much more inexpensive alternative to what we have out there.
That's the idea.
That is Richard Pops, Chairman, CEO of Alkermes. I don't know. Look, we're in some funk for these stocks, but this man and this company is doing everything right. Stay with Cramer. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.